Welcome to our April Facebook Live. As you all know, this is a very interesting moment in time with this coronavirus. We are living through interesting times, as the Chinese proverb says, may you live in interesting times, and I feel like we definitely are living in interesting times right now. We are just outside of Washington, D.C. My son, who's 6.5, is home doing his school downstairs right now online. My husband is in his office here, his home office working. I'm in my home office. And I'll tell you, with one kid, it's much easier, I think, to manage this. My heart goes out to my friends that have multiple kids. Hi, Amanda. Amanda's got two, I know, so I don't know how you guys are doing the stay-at-home thing with multiple kids. But yeah, we're managing so far. We were trying really hard to see to make lemonade out of lemons, and so far we've just been having a wonderful time as a family, being together, spending a lot of time outside, biking, hiking, walking. Uh, it's been great, and I can imagine that if this were to go on for months and months and months, it might get a little tricky. Our son Lucas is 6.5. Um, and I think just being away from his friends thus far has been a real challenge for him. I can't imagine how much harder it would or will be if this goes on indefinitely. So lots of unknowns, lots of uncertainty, like life always has. It's just much more at this moment. So welcome to those of you who are here. I know I tend to start right on time. I know a lot of people roll in. This video will be available not just live, but on my Facebook page and YouTube after. So if you missed this, you can bring your questions next time. And if you guys who are here now don't have questions, well, if you do, let me know. And if not, I will go ahead and answer some of the emailed ones that I got in. One of which actually was, how are you handling this coronavirus craziness? Yeah, as I said, our schedule so far is really, really good. When you have two adults and one child, it's a lot easier. And it's been hard for me too in our community. We have a wonderful community, and we tend to, walk together, do yoga together, play together, have coffee together. So it has been hard. It's been someone like me who loves to love people and loves to help people. It's been a bit of a challenge, but we're making do. We're blessed. We tend to count on our blessings that aren't working. So we're doing great, and we have a lot of compassion, and our hearts go out to those who aren't doing as well, who, their work isn't there, or they have a lot less of it. Obviously, a lot of singers, a lot of my clients and friends, the gigs have dried up because, the live gigs certainly, and even those who are creative enough to find opportunities to do online performances and things. The world has changed a little bit, and in addition to not having the income and the jobs, there's also the variable of not knowing for how long this is going to go on. So again, a lot of uncertainty. All we do and all we can do is take a deep breath, hang in there, and then just see what comes. I liken it to, when you're in the ocean, you can try really hard to fight the tide and plant your feet on the ground, or you can just surrender and lift your feet up, get on your back, and just drift with the tide. It's going the way it's going anyway, so there's not much we can do about that. So another question I have, what's with all the Mary Oliver poetry from Liz in Utah? So hi, Liz, thank you. So totally shifting gears from the coronavirus, the answer to that question is I've long been a fan of poetry. I've dabbled in writing poetry, but mainly just am a consumer and have always loved it. And I don't remember when I stumbled on Mary Oliver decades ago, but I really always found her candor, her personal story, and her frequent use of nature as metaphor and also as in reality. I just always have so appreciated her poetry and her optimism and her passion and her candor. So when John and I got married 2 years ago, welcome guys, I see some of you have joined. The question was, what's up with all the Mary Oliver poetry that I'm always reading and posting on Facebook and beyond? When John and I got married now almost 10 years ago, we had three poems at our wedding, and two of them were by Mary Oliver. And I'm happy to share them with you. I love them. I mean, this is the good side about this is you're going to get some great poetry. The bad side is I'll probably start crying. So the first one, actually, one is in a book and one I have on my phone because I couldn't find it in the book. So the first Mary Oliver poem we had at my wedding is called West Wind 2. And it says, you are young. By the way, $1 million to each of you if I can get through this without crying, so cross your fingers. You are young, so you know everything. You leap into the boat and begin rowing. But listen to me. Without fanfare, without embarrassment, without any doubt, I talk directly to your soul. Listen to me. Lift the oars from the water. Let your arms rest and your heart's little intelligence, and listen to me. There is not love. It is not worth the body of a dead dog 9 days unburied. Here, a mile away and still out of sight, the churn of the water as it begins to swirl and roil, fretting around the sharp rocks. When you hear that unmistakable pounding, when you feel the mist on your mouth, the head, the embattlement, the long falls, plunging and steaming, then row for your life toward it. So that was our first poem, and it's amazing that I got through it without crying. Fantastic. So I always loved that poem by Mary Oliver. Obviously, the metaphor of calm waters are safe. The waterfalls and the churning and the swirling and the roiling are things that we tend to try to avoid in our lives. But as she says, that's where love and frankly life and adventure lies. So don't row away from it or hesitate, but row toward it. For those of you that are joining, hi guys. I know I should always give us 5 minutes or so before we get started. And again, this is going to be on my page after if you missed part of it or all of it. But the question was, what's up with, from Liz in Utah, what's up with all the Mary Oliver you're always talking about and posting about? So I was sharing that at our wedding about 10 years ago, John and my wedding, we had 3 poems and 2 of them were by Mary Oliver. So I decided I was going to read them to you today, because why not? So the first one is West Wind 2. And as you heard, it talks about a dead dog 9 days unburied. So that went over really well with my aunt who read it. I think she looked at me like, really? So you're going to really love the title of this one. The second poem we had by Mary Oliver is When Death Comes. But you'll hopefully get it at the end. And as I said, if I can get through this without crying, it will be completely amazing. But I got through the first one without it. So. And then after this, guys, if you have any questions for me about, and usually on these Facebook Lives, we talk about, singing, we talk about performing, my books, all things performance anxiety, self-expression. But obviously we have so much going on now in the world, and not just professionally, the impact professionally, but the impact personally, the impact communally. So whatever you guys want to ask about or talk about is great. And let me also add, whether here or maybe in emails or on Facebook or whatever, you can share your feedback with me. But I've been wondering too about moving these Facebook Lives to Zoom, because it's one thing to see you guys and read your questions in the chat, but I miss, talking to you guys too face to face. The only potential downside of that is that in terms of posting it, if you ask a question, your name will be there, so there's privacy concerns. But I'm weighing both. Facebook Live is certainly easy, but also Zoom would be great so I can see you all. So I'm going to read you my second wedding poem by Mary Oliver called, completely inappropriately, When Death Comes, and then I'll answer any other questions you guys have. So this says, When Death Comes, again by Mary Oliver, and actually I'm reading it to you from her book. I think someone on my Facebook page the other day said, what book is it that you're always taking pictures of outside in your garden? It's Devotions by Mary Oliver. I don't know if you can even see that with this lighting. I have the sun streaming through. Devotions. It's just a collection of her poetry. And here's When Death Comes. When death comes, like the hungry bear in autumn, when death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me and snaps the purse shut, when death comes like the measles pox, when death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades, I want to step through the door full of curiosity, wondering, what is it going to be like, that cottage of darkness? And therefore I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood. And I look upon time as no more than an idea, and I consider eternity as another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy, and as singular, and each name a comfortable music in the mouth, tending, as all music does, toward silence. And each body a lion of courage, and something precious to the earth. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I have made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened and full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world. When it's over, I want to say, all my life, I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom, taking the world into my arms. And at the very end, it got me. So, it was interesting as I was reading that. Of course, I was looking, when thinking about poems for our wedding, I loved the bride and bridegroom analogy of being married to amazement and taking the world into your arms. But isn't that amazing, when death comes like the measles pox? The idea of looking at living an amazing, love-filled life through the lens of when it's over. Because it will at some point be over. And this current situation has us a little more present to the reality and will be over. Possibly will be like. So it's amazing. This is true of most poetry. I'm a fan of many poets, but certainly of all poetry and Mary Oliver's. When you read it newly in different circumstances in your life or in culture in the world, it's amazing how it seems timeless in its appropriateness ongoingly through so many cycles. So those were the two poems. Liz, I hope that answers your question about what's up with all the Mary Oliver. Yeah, and I do. It's funny. I started posting pictures of the poetry on Facebook and social media because I had clients that would say, and friends that would say, what are some of your favorites? What are you reading? And I thought, well, let me share them. And I hope that's been a good thing for you guys. So I'm happy to see you guys here. Hi, Doug. Hi, Derek. Otto. Lori. Oh, I'm happy to see you. Hi, hi, guys. Hi, Sarah. Well, since you're here, do you guys have questions? I have, people email questions from time to time, whether maybe because they can't be live with us, or maybe they're just, I don't know, shy to type. I don't know. But I have some here. But if you guys have questions, I'd love to hear. Oh, hi, Deb. Begging each of us to be fully present in the moment. Yes. Yes. I mean, isn't that all? That's the only thing there is to do, right, guys? If you all don't ask questions, I'll start waxing philosophical on what Deb just said. So feel free to ask any questions or even just to share. I know it's in a chat. It's not as fun as if we were on a Zoom call, but anything that's going on for you. I know some of you are performers, some of you are friends, some of you are colleagues, some of you I've led workshops for. It's so great to see you guys here. But yeah, feel free to ask questions, and if not, I can go to this printout I have of some others, or certainly Deb, you make a really great point. To Deb's points, oh, somebody else popped up too. Hi there. You guys, I'm new to this Facebook Live thing. You guys are making your faces pop and swim up the screen. Cool. You'll have to teach me sometime. Yeah, to Deb's point, begging each of us to be fully present in the moment. Yeah, my thoughts. I'll try to be brief. Of course, interrupt me with a question, guys. So I'm 45. I've been on the planet a little while, hopefully less than half my life, hopefully less than half of a very healthy, active life. And of all the things I've learned, of everything I've learned and have read and have, and have taken in and believed and then not believed or unbelieved, Deb is touching on a point that I have personally found to be the most critical, that really all this moment, and that there seems to be, in my experience, a direct correlation between being present and contentedness. And, I love the word happiness, happy, but I think that contentedness is an is a more is a greater state, actually. I think happiness is something that goes along with contentedness. Um, Whenever I zip out of the present, whenever I allow my thoughts and my feelings to have my attention and have me start to believe their not so subtle lies, that contentedness and peace slip away. So, absolutely, being present in the moment. There's so much poetry. There's so many great teachers. There's so many, there's so much wisdom around that, from the Stoics of thousands of years ago to today. I think Eckhart Tolle is, his The Power of Now speaks to that very articulately and cleanly, I think, in a way I find very accessible today. So yes, Deb, great point. I'm gonna love that comment. I don't know if that does anything, but I did. Any questions, you guys, or any thoughts? Anything you want me to babble on about, or that's on your mind that you'd like me to speak to? And if not, all right, cool. Well, while you think about that and type, let me come over here to my list of questions, my emailed questions in. Okay, another Doug. Oh, yes. Oh, great. This is helpful, Doug. Thank you. Yeah, he's wondering about the schedule going forward. We have, thank you, out in California. So I don't know how many of you here today and watching the replays are on my mailing list, but I just sent out an email or a blast or whatever you call these things yesterday or the day before. We have, in addition to these monthly Facebook Lives, 4 times a year here in Washington, D.C., I do in-person masterclasses, which are so fun. And the next one was scheduled to be April 26th. And so those go on 4 times a year, and then I also do in-person very small intensives, and one was scheduled for May. All this is on my website, the information, which is findingyourvoice.com. But yes, those 2 have been canceled in light of all of this. The April 26th workshop, we're going to just cancel because the next one is July 26th. And hopefully we will be able to be together for that. And then the self-expression intensive that's scheduled for May 16th, we're going to cancel. We'll just reschedule that. And then there's a vocal intensive scheduled for the fall in New York. Those dates actually haven't been locked in yet, happily. So we'll wait to see how this all pans out and make a decision when we're kind of in the clear for you New Yorkers up there, so that when we have a date, it's a definite. So yeah, but other than that, our monthly Facebook Lives are going to go on. I've always done a lot of work for my home office coaching online, so that's obviously not changing. The only difference is I have a little 6.5-year-old mini me running around behind me and coming in with smooches in the middle of them, and my husband working in his office downstairs. So thankfully has been pretty much uninterrupted, except for these wonderful live events that, at least for now, are postponed. So I hope that answers your question, Doug, and everyone else. I've got some more here. Do you guys have any questions at all? Oh, Rihanna! Hi from Olympia, Washington. Hello, beautiful Rihanna. How are you? I was saying earlier, before some of you got here, and it's so funny trying to manage a live conversation and replay, because I'm going to repeat myself for the replay, but I was saying that, I've been thinking that now that we are in the age of Zoom, it would be really fun to do these on Zoom so that I can see you and talk to you and have you talk to each other. That I think that could be really special. But of course, that's if and only if you all feel comfortable having your faces and possibly even your names. We could do first names, sort of there online and for everybody to see them. But I use Zoom professionally, so we could certainly try that. So I might run it by a few of you guys, and maybe we'll play around with it. And maybe our May Facebook Live, we could actually have it be on Zoom. We could try that. It'll take me about a month to figure out the logistics of all of that. So, but it is great to see your names here. I'm so happy to see Rihanna and Deb and Sarah and Otto. So great. Rihanna, I was asking people if you have questions, whether about singing and performing in general, or anything that's going on right now with this crazy coronavirus and how it pertains to you and your lives and your performances. Rihanna, I know you and your brothers travel all over the world singing and performing. I don't know what that's been like for you. Now, obviously, I'm sure a lot of that's been put on hold. I don't know if whether you guys have been able to make the transition to the digital space to do that. But as I said, yeah, if you guys have questions, I'd love to answer them. Otherwise, I'm going to go to some questions that were emailed to me. A couple of these I answered last time. Someone was asking about what I'm working on and books. I already answered that in the last one. So I'll just say briefly that so I've written two books series. The first one is subtitled "Discovering and Developing Your True Voice," and that's about technique and mindset. And then the next art of singing is the art of singing on stage and in the studio, which is about performance anxiety, technology, and the relationships on stage and in the studio. So it's a sort of an extension of the first book, and I am working on the third one now, which is going to go kind of in, I guess mindset might be the right word, but maybe even more of like a spiritual, without being spiritual, view of what it means to be a singer. So in the first two books we looked at singing, as singers, how do we sing? How do we interact? How do we project? How do we work on stage and in the studio? And this one that I'm working on now really turns the focus on, who is the person doing the singing? And without offering, of course, any answers, we're our own people, and nobody can, we all have to do our own personal work. But really looking at that kind of counterintuitive, I think, surrendering of who we are, that I believe is necessary in order to really find who we are as people and as singers. It's been great. I have to be truthful, and I say this genuinely with a lot of happiness. Writing for me is a solitary pursuit. I kind of have to turn the world off and the technology off and be in my office. And now with a house full, happily full, that hasn't been the case. So I see my clients and I work on some articles kind of before everybody wakes up and after everybody goes to bed. But the books are kind of, they're percolating in my mind. So. And then I'm also working on kind of an exercise, a book of technique, of the first art of singing, and some other little projects here and there. So, okay, let's see. We've got live stream. Oh no, let's see. I'm now reading your comments, guys. The live stream is unfortunately often interrupted for me. Oh no, me too. I'm having trouble staying connected. Oh yikes, same here. Oh no, intermittent. Oh, guys, I'm so sorry. That totally sucks. Well, my internet is fine, so I'm going to hope the end, and I'm going to hope that the replay is okay. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, guys. Well, hopefully if the replay is okay, you'll be able to watch me babble to myself for a half an hour. And hopefully for next time we can get this resolved. And frankly, now that everybody, frankly, is at home and streaming, maybe that's part of the problem. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just a fluke today. But I'll definitely look into Zoom. Maybe that'll make things better. So let me just like your comments, guys, so that I can acknowledge that what's going on. Yeah, well, that's going to make questions a little tricky. Yeah, I'll just leave it for that. Leave it with that right now, and just say that I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to see your names. Hi, Michael. Oh, I haven't seen you in so long. See your name and your picture. Yeah, we'll try to get this resolved for next time. I'm not sure what's going on, guys. But yeah, any other questions? aren't having trouble. Oh, I'm so happy to see you guys. I'm so sorry to hear about the delay. But yeah, well, let's just say that we're going to do this next month. Let me take a look at the calendar. I think the next one we're going to do is May 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. May 4th at noon Eastern Time, which I picked because I know a lot of you are in Europe. Otto and others are in Europe. And so, that's in the 5, 6 p.m. range for you guys. And those of you who are on the West Coast, I thought was early, but not too early. So hopefully that'll work for you guys. Um, oh, good. Yeah. Oh, guys. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm getting all your comments. I'm going to answer your question. Replay. Yes, I'm so sorry, Rihanna, you're having trouble. Hi, Edie, to you too. Otto, it's still very nice to see you. It was so great to see you here. Doug, are you writing about these times? I'm trying. Have a melody on piano, but the lyrics are slow in coming. Yes. Well, that I can answer that, Doug. Some of you might know I have a column with I write a column for Psychology Today online, basically once a month, and they are so gracious in allowing me to write pretty much about anything I want. It's a column mainly on creativity and self-expression, but I stretch that quite a bit sometimes. And Doug, I wrote a piece about these times. I wonder if I can include it. Okay, guys, if I hang up on you, if something bad happens, don't kill me. But let me see if I can include it in the comments. I don't know if by going to a different screen, I just lost you guys. I'll still keep talking. Let's hope that this isn't such a big deal. But I did write an article for them, my last article. I'm going to put it in the comments. Let's see if that didn't screw things up. I'm still here. You're still here. I just put it in the comments, and it's about. I had an issue, as those of you with whom I've worked quite a bit, you know that I am a big believer in the power of language. From a singer point of view, or from my example, singers we think of notes or say notes are high or low, even though we think we're just using words descriptively. They're actually also creative. They create a reality. These little word packages create a reality. If I think a note is high, it literally changes the way that I engage in my body and create that note and try to achieve that pitch. It literally takes my energy and focus up, and as a result, causes my vocal mechanism to also create some tensions in an effort to lift up toward that high note. I could give you a million examples. Again, there's nobody here to interrupt me to stop me, which is a problem because I do like to babble. But I'll give you a couple more. So things like high, low, even things like engage your support. Support is something that we can do a little part of to engage, but so much of it is autonomic, meaning that it engages on its own. So whether it comes to seemingly descriptive terms or commands, engage your support, place that note, use your resonance. Oftentimes, when we really try to adhere to those words as commands, we manipulate things in our body and in our voices that often doing them on their own without language. So in my work, I really believe what has come to work for most people with whom I work, of course everyone's different, I have found over these 20 years now doing this that doing my best to try to support singers to have experiences of correct singing, and then to use language to label these experiences, these successful experiences they've already had, then that empowers their bodies to know how to create singing correctly, and then to use language powerfully and in a way that works, rather than to be influenced in an unhealthy way by language. So all of that to say, in my work, language is huge. I have a whole chapter on it in my first book. I talk about it incessantly in my Psychology Today articles, and on and on. So, Doug, to your question, when this, good, you're still here. Yay. Your question. When all of this language about social distancing started, it kind of when you get tweaked by something, but you haven't yet put words to what's tweaking, you don't quite even know what it is to put words to. I found myself uncomfortable by that notion of social distancing. And I realized that what was a much more powerful way to describe the same phenomena for me was physical distancing. That we can be physically distant, we can stay 6 feet apart, but we can still be social. So I wrote this article that I included in the link. If you aren't here now or the chat doesn't come up, I don't know if the chat comes up in replay, but you can go to findingyourvoice.com, go to the articles page, and then there's a link to my Psychology Today column, and then you can read. It should be the first one as of today, April 6th. But it's called Physical, Not Social Distancing. And I have found that using that term is much more powerful. And I believe a week later, whether it had something to do with me or not, I don't know, the World Health Organization made that shift too. And I've been really heartened to see that more and more people seem to be using that term, which I find to be not only more accurate. I mean, we're not saying to be socially distant from people. We need more than ever, I think, to be connected with one another. So I'm proud of the piece. I hope it's interesting. And Doug, yes, that is what I have been working on. Oh, but Lord, do I have so many thoughts about all that's going on. Actually, I will tell you too. Oh, I don't know if I can find this easily. You know what? At the end of this, I'll put it on the Art of Singing page. I think I actually already did. I did read this phenomenal piece, guys. I try to stay away from the news, I will say. I don't watch a whole lot of TV, even in normal times. But I did read a piece called The Coronation by a guy named Charles Eisenstein that I found so wonderful about Doug and others these times. And in a really refreshing way, I found it very informative and very helpful and very insightful, all the while while the author is saying, and I don't have an answer, I'm not attached to an outcome, I'm wondering about this, I don't know for sure. So I found it really refreshing. And in addition to the article of mine that I posted, I found his piece terrific. And again, I'll post it on the Art of Singing page, but it's Charles Eisenstein, which you can Google, and it's called The Coronation. So my husband just joined. Hi, darling, how are you? People are having connection problems, babe. I don't know. I hope it's not our home. I doubt that. I know we've got some turbo high speed here because of both of us doing quite a bit of work from home. You so rock. Oh, thanks. Well, you're paid to say that, sweet love. So Doug, I hope that answers your question. Oh, Cliff, it's so good to see you. Petra, oh, I'm so happy to see all of you. Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, does anybody else have any questions? I know it sounds like some of you are having some static or you're 5 minutes behind, so, but I'm happy to stay on a few more minutes if you guys have other questions. And if not, we will meet again here in a probably on Facebook Live or Zoom. As I said, I would love to be able to see you all. What John said. Oh, thanks, Doug. Oh, you guys are sweet. I now need to put you on the payroll too, Doug, right? Yeah, so also too, if you guys don't mind, I know we're behind here, but send me an email, by the way, which is info@findingyourvoice.com, or here on Facebook or Twitter. I'd love to know your thoughts. Would you guys prefer this to be a monthly Zoom thing? I mean, I have Zoom. I could send you a link. That way we could see each other. You don't have to talk, but if you have questions, you can ask them and I can see you. We maybe even could do some sort of vocal troubleshooting, which could be really fun. I think it gives us a lot of possibilities that maybe Facebook Live doesn't. And because while it is fun to answer your question, I think to be able to see you and work with each other. Alex Brofsky, hello. So back to Rihanna's question. Yes, I hope that in spite of all the technical glitches and weirdness, this will still be able to be viewed after the fact. I know that last month's was. And depending on where the technical glitch is, if it's on my end or Facebook's end or just maybe bandwidth issues, we'll see. So if you guys don't have any other questions, I'm going to say lots of love, happy Monday. I really do love what I do and love you all, truly. I mean that. And I'm wishing you all so well during these truly fascinating times. Back to my point about to put a pejorative spin on it or similarly a too positive spin on it, but they certainly are interesting times. And I think, as I sort of touched upon at the beginning, interesting times, difficult times, challenging times can be things that we want to avoid, but they also, I will share one of my personal experiences from this. I think it's Einstein who said, I'm going to totally butcher this, but an object in motion stays in motion unless an outside force kind of hits it off. He obviously said it much more articulately than that, but I have found a sort of commensurate experience in my own life because of this virus. Life. I have and have had a great life. Writing, work, my family, but this pause that the coronavirus has sort of imposed upon me, having my family home, having things slow down, having the opportunities to be out, do, buy, all this kind of stop and slow down, has caused a slowing down in myself too. And as I look around my life, I am amazed. I see now the difference between the rush of my life and the activities in my life and the rush that I have imposed upon life in an effort to help myself achieve those things. So that has been a real gift of this time for me. I've chosen to see it as a gift, to see that, back to Deb's point many, many, many scrolling ups ago about scrolling ups. It's not accurate, but about being present. When life hits the pause button in this way, as it has, literally in so many things, and we are forced to stay home, stay still, or more still, can choose to look at it, can't we, as an opportunity to say, wow, okay, now that I've been slowed down, I have the opportunity to slow down and really see um, whether or not this is a pace, a physical pace, a busyness pace, but also a mental pace, a pace of patience that I can bring back to life when it goes back to normal, if ever there is such a thing. So that has been something that I have found to be a real opportunity. And there have been lots of moments like that. As I said, I'm not a big TV watcher, but I'm a big to-do list doer. So when I have a free moment, I often go to the to-do list. And with my boys at home, what we've been doing instead is let's go for a bike ride, let's go for a walk. And I don't know around the world, but people are out keeping their distance, but they're out, they're walking. I feel like people are getting healthier, they're in nature, they're in the sunshine. We certainly are more, and doing so as a family, and that also has been a for us. So I know times are hard. My heart goes out to the people who, health, economics, job, all these things are really struggling. And I think that we can all choose to at least, even in the most difficult of circumstances, look at the blessings we do have, whatever they may be, big and small. Look at the opportunities and this shifted perspective in this moment in time, and to dwell on those as much or hopefully more than we dwell on the real challenges. And as I say to my father and mother-in-law, and my mom, but my father and mother-in-law are the big news watchers. Turn off the television. Don't watch so much. It's not necessarily helpful. I think, given that so much of it is so sensationalized. So, yeah, I love you guys. I hope you're doing well. Deb, oh great, we've got a couple comments. Deb, yes, pause, stop, making space to wake up. Absolutely. And Lori Wells, Lori, hello, sweetheart. And Doug, oh, you'll find the article on my site. Great, perfect. Great, guys. Well, I love you all, whether you're here live with me now or in the replay that hopefully will work given these glitchy things going on. I don't want to say goodbye. We will meet again next month on Facebook Live or Zoom, one way or the other. I'll let you all know. But I love you. Be well, be safe, stay social, just keep your physical distance. And I'll see you soon. Love you guys. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me, info@com, or on Facebook or Twitter or anywhere. Just pick up the phone and call me if you have my number. And I love you guys. And I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.